I'm Megan Bennett.
I'm Lesley Meyer.
And this is GenX Women Are Sick of This Shit. Hi, Lesley.
Hi, Megan.
How are you?
I'm really good, actually.
Good. I am so glad to hear that.
This is my favorite part of this project that we do together.
Yeah.
Is
the intro
podcast. No,
the intro?
The intro, because it's very reliable. But this podcast is my favorite part.
I like it too. It's my favorite part.
This is why we do the things that we do.
It's just two friends sitting around talking shit about shit.
That's the truth.
It really is.
That is exactly what it is.
Acting like we know what the fuck we're talking about.
And that's what the Gen Expert, Not an Expert segment is all about.
Truth.
We forgot about that one.
Or stretching the truth.
And the last one, we forgot about Gen Expert, Not an Expert.
That's all right.
I love that, though.
We'll roll back around to it.
That we forget and remember and forget.
Hard enough time remembering my own name in that one. So what are you going to do?
Every time I think I have a full list of the segments of our podcast, I have typed it many times. Now it's in the Google Drive, so we won't lose it. However, I still fucking love that segment off. Like
it's
you
do.
Good. That's all, folks. Except we're at the beginning.
That is my really, really bad Woody Woodpecker.
I hope that made somebody laugh out loud or do a little spit take. That's what I want to have happened there.
Oy.
So today,
yeah,
we should start with one of our regular segments that we do all the time. That we
remember.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Which is Bullshit and Hot Goss, a.k.a. Who Died This Week, Last Week, or in Recent Memory, because this one was a death from a couple weeks ago.
Okay. So sometimes these are gossipy things that are fun.
Yes.
Other times people keep dropping dead like all the time, and we have to talk about that because they're people that we know, love, remember,
absolutely
grew up with, whatever. So we want to pay them some homage.
Yes. And everybody has different interests, and honestly, it's just whatever happens across our social media and stays stuck in our little brains. But by the time we get here, there must have been an animator who passed away, because clearly I'm channeling this.
We got Porky Pig going. We got these are like nostalgia nuggets, or not. Yeah, nostalgia
and nuggets. On October 25th, so by the time this episode airs, it's been about a month.
Yeah,
Phil Lesh passed away, and he was a founding member of the Grateful Dead. Though I was a bit young to see the Dead live, I think the opportunity that I would have had, I was not allowed.
Yeah.
They were greatly influential. I certainly spent a shitload of time in college listening to the Dead. I still listen to the Dead today, and they definitely influenced the band that I did go see numerous times. Fish with Trey Anastasio.
I was never a fish head person. I wasn't a Deadhead person, come to think of it, really. But I mean, there were a few songs that,
sure.
Casey Jones, a great song.
Yes.
And if that's on the radio, I will not turn it away. But I was never a huge Deadhead. I did have tons of friends, especially in college, that were big time Deadheads. The hippie
will make
crew.
You a hippie.
Right. Well, that's when I learned about the weed. The weed. And probably from the people who, had the long skirts and twirled around a lot.
That was me.
I did pick up a few things.
I was a twirly girl.
I did enjoy the weed, and I do like patchouli.
Word.
So, I mean, I know some people have a hatred of the patchouli. It is not me. My mom hates it.
My memory of... So it feels a little bit, I did buy the patchouli at the mall because I would have gotten it from the Body Shop.
Oh, yeah.
Precursor to Bath and Body Works.
Yep.
But also very hip.
I think it's a separate,
still exists.
Separate organization.
Oh, yeah. It's
right?
totally different business. But before Bath and Body Works existed, or before Lush, which
Yep.
is very contemporary,
Yes.
existed.
Yes.
In the 90s, it was the Body Shop. And in my mind, I associate that with Benetton, and I don't know why.
It's just the B, probably. I went to the original Body Shop in London.
Ooh.
When I was 16. So
How fucking
16,
cool.
18.
I'll believe
So
whatever you say.
89 when we went to London.
That's awesome.
And it was very cool. And I'm pretty sure I bought patchouli.
Because that's where you got it.
Yeah, you do.
I don't know.
That maybe sandalwood or whatever. But it was cool because you walked in, it was very green. Everything was very green.
Yes.
And you walk in and you could mix your own if you wanted to. So you could make your own perfume mixes based on the different oils that they had. So, or you could buy them straight up if you wanted to.
That's really friggin' sweet.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So cool. So really, this is just about perfume
and hippie perfume.
Hippie perfume.
Hippie perfume.
So I'm sure lots of people have lots of memories, but those are mine.
Yeah. So tell me about
and that's what we got.
So you never got to see them in concert.
No.
But this was did you have the blacklight posters and the whole?
No, that stuff always freaked me out.
Okay.
Even though, because I think for whatever reason in my mind, I associated that more with metalheads.
Okay.
And
interesting.
So I was more Peace, Love, Flowers, you know, kind of everybody loves everybody. And that just felt really intense. And then my experiences with psychedelics always happened in the outdoors. And there's nothing worse. That sounds like the worst possible thing that you could ever do would be to put yourself in front of a blacklight poster in an artificial environment. Hell fucking no.
When you were a tiny little piece of paper was stuck on your tongue kind of thing?
May or may not have had some experience. I can confirm nor deny what they were.
Yeah.
But blacklight posters... No way. It's okay,
man.
Mom.
We could do a whole episode on that. We'd have to really decide how much we want to divulge.
I mean...
But I've got stories.
I'm sure.
I mean, I went to college.
So my rules were, it's just nature was really important. You got to be outside. You got to be with people that are cool. You got to have some water. You got to have some snacks. Lots of places to walk. Good music.
I did my time outside.
Camping, whatever. But definitely not a blacklight poster. That sounds like a tiny bit of hell.
Okay, yeah. The outsides were good.
I could see that you're working on a specific thing.
They were good and they were also potentially terrifying.
I mean, if you were in the city, well,
I was in a small urban
there's something
area.
So specific.
It's fine. I got so many stories.
Okay. But we can put a pin in it.
We'll put a pin in it. We will discuss about how
in the
comfortable we feel about talking about.
We may or may not talk about stories. What we from the 90s
might have done and.
May or may not confirm or deny. Yeah. We will include no names.
But to be fair, the Grateful Dead had a lot to do with drug culture.
Absolutely. And just, being able to think in a different way, more community-minded.
Mm-hmm. So how old was he when he passed? Do you know?
Well,
now that
I did.
Sorry, I saw you just shut that down on the computer.
I totally did 2 seconds ago.
Oh, sorry. I did that.
Damn. ADHD is what it is. So 84.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, I knew he had to be kind of up there a little bit because if he was a founding member, but my God, Jerry Garcia died so young, didn't he?
Very much so. That I remember when that
was ages ago.
Yeah, it was devastating.
Oh man, that's really a bummer. I did like that Shades of Grey song. I know that's some people didn't like that song, but I thought it was really good.
There's this little.
And now, if you listen to those lyrics. It's starting to mean more.
I think we'll just leave that there and maybe we'll revisit ADHD threads of that topic in the future. I think that's good enough for now.
We've got things.
I was having a memory, I'm sure there's an episode that will start here at some point, of being in college and going to a head shop in Louisville and finding little quarter sheet hand-drawn flyers, they'd been copied on a copy machine for Fish when they were just a tiny little band touring college towns.
Yeah.
And being like, oh, this seems cool, you know, and just how that grew, because that they were sort of growing at the same time that I was in school and they were touring, and that was really fun.
My brother-in-law is a massive Fish fan.
Really?
Like, I don't think there's a show
in
the tri-state area that he hasn't, like, that he doesn't go to. So
yeah. I have not been in the recent incarnation at all. There's some part of me that's like, oh, that's just in its little bubble in time.
It also would be really hard now. I think just when you get to a certain age, you're like, God, I don't know, man. That's a long day, probably in the hot, sweltering sun.
They were here, and we were
twirling.
not in town when they were here. We were in Nashville the same weekend that they were here. Yeah, it's a different vibe. Rock stars. So, Megan.
You know, there's a natural transition we could make here.
Oh, do it.
About marijuana and being hungry.
Oh, there you go. The munchies. What are we talking about today on this show?
We're talking about food, baby.
We're going to talk about food. This is kind of a Gen expert, not an expert, because we're just really using our own lives as the research basis for this entire conversation. We're not really going to talk about what shit we're sick of today, other than to say it's like a bummer that maybe like we can't eat with, well, we do, but
with wild
abandon that we did when we were small children.
And then of course I brought over McDonald's on my way to the studio today. So you know, I
had some
I still eat like
shit.
I eat like shit.
I go through periods. I cycle. Like, it's like, okay, I do well, whatever that means. I hate even that we value like food that way. It's bullshit. Diet culture and the way that we talk about food. And then other times it's just too hard to fix shit.
Well, maybe it's not like the diet culture so much as like I'm eating things that are actually good for my body as opposed to eating things that are absolute shit and then taking vitamins and hope that I will get enough of my vitamin D and vitamin B to keep my body alive for one more day. I don't know. That's where I am. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have this alive vitamin that has all the things in it, and maybe I'll take an extra one. I don't know. It's terrible.
It is a little bit the curse, which I'm sure we will talk about many other times, of ADHDers and food, though. And if you are interested, it will work, right? You'll do all the things. You'll cook all the things. But if something interrupts your routine or you're busy, that cucumber is going to sit in that bottom drawer for 2 months and be a science experiment, and you will waste so much fucking money.
You would have to hold me down to get me to eat a cucumber.
Okay, well, maybe not a cucumber. Is there a vegetable that you do enjoy?
I like broccoli. I like green beans. I like carrots a lot.
Okay.
I cannot abide the Brussels sprout. I do
have a love of Brussels sprouts.
My sister loves the Brussels sprout. My mom likes the Brussels sprout. They taste like mushy shit. And I know you can. Yes,
I make them really crispy.
I know. Supposedly that happens.
It's okay. We don't all have to love the same cruciferous vegetables. Did I say that word correctly?
I think you did it right. I don't know. You pulled that one out of your butt.
So this episode is about foods of our youth and foods that we associate with younger self holiday memories. But we're not going to go too much into modern stuff. I don't remember. We'll see where it goes.
Can I continue on the vegetable thing real
quick?
I have a funny
let's
story.
Talk about it. Share me your story.
I'm going to tell a story about my sister, who is 6 years younger than me. Ooh, and when my sister and I were younger, my dad and mom had gotten divorced, and my stepmother and my dad lived in this little house and
on the prairie.
No prairie, but just a little house. And we would go over and visit, and my stepmother would make dinner. And
it was a long
pause. Well, I was trying to figure out. Well, anyway, and she made peas one night. Probably just popped them out of a can. No big whoop. My sister would not do peas.
Okay.
Absolutely.
People have strong feelings about peas.
Right. When you have it, and I like peas, I'll do peas.
Okay.
My sister absolutely would not. And she was in that situation where you had to sit there until you ate your peas.
Fuck that shit.
So bullshit,
we do not
right?
Do that.
Yeah, not great. But my stepmother was like, you are going to eat those peas. You will sit here until you,
power
till you age or whatever.
Over food.
Right.
Ugh.
So my sister sat there, and we sat there, and sat there, and sat there. And then finally, the peas were gone.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, okay, so she ate her peas.
Mm-mm.
A couple hours later, we got in the car and we head home.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of realized...
With your mom? Like to your mom?
To my mom's,
okay.
yeah. And realized that my sister really hadn't said anything for the entire 2 hours plus the car ride.
So wait, you were in the car with your stepmom and your dad?
Yeah, I think my dad was just bringing us home.
Okay. Yes,
so
I'm all about it.
My sister's in the back seat.
Uh-huh.
She's been very quiet, incredibly quiet. Multiple hours have passed. We get home, come inside. She immediately goes to the bathroom and spits out the peas.
Fuck yeah, she does.
Carried them in her mouth.
Like a mama bird.
For hours. Rather than chew them up and swallow them, she carried that taste around for 3.5 hours.
God love her.
Very stubborn. So awesome. But
I
that's such
brilliant, though.
I don't know. You literally are tasting them that whole time.
That sounds like torture. And she just doubled down on the principle.
She's like, fine.
I don't blame her.
No, I will sit here. I will not eat these peas. I will put them in my mouth and you will not know. I couldn't figure out why she wouldn't just go into the bathroom at their house.
Truth. Why didn't she just go spit it? What happened to interrupt or stymie?
Or she was probably afraid somebody would know that she, was holding those peas in her mouth. But
she did the best she could.
She did. Anyway, kind of proud of her. Kind of wonder.
So proud
poor
of
thing.
her.
Anyway.
That's awful. I hear that. And knowing what we know now about kids and sensory issues and adults and sensory issues around food and avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, so many things. And we're both neurodivergent and how that all fits, and that's genetic and inherited and
right. And I'm sure
food control with kids, just let's not double down on that.
Right. I think that's something we've grown out of, right? Hopefully our generation doesn't do that to our kids and our grandkids, right? I'm sure it still happens, but hopefully the majority of us have moved on from that. And we know you can get your vegetables other ways. You don't have to have the nasty peas.
No.
And you don't have to have gross, disgusting Brussels sprouts.
I
may have injected my personal feelings into Brussels sprouts into that.
That is
sentence.
Okay. That is so fine. It was the great pea Brussels sprout debate in the Megan and sister household. Perhaps you had flags. Brussels sprouts.
I'm Team Brussels sprouts. I'm TP.
Good gravy.
Anyway, that was another vegetable story that I just had to share. It was ridiculous.
Gravy's a holiday food.
Gravy. My husband would eat anything if it was covered in gravy.
Really? I associate gravy with holidays. Now, when we talk about holidays, we're talking about the United States, Midwest. We are all quite European in our roots.
Corn-fed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the experiences are going to be different around the world and in our listening audience, and even regionally and economically. There will be differences in how you experience.
So if you're in the South,
holidays.
you probably have you've got different vegetables than we have. Just
okra.
Because, okra for sure, greens, that kind of stuff that we just wouldn't have in the Midwest.
Yep. It didn't migrate up. Some things did. But I associate gravy as a special thing with the holidays, with mashed potatoes and on your dry white meat turkey.
This is going to be a really hard episode because I'm going to be all right,
I'm starving.
I need some gravy.
So we're talking about food though in a couple of categories. One, of course, is just holiday kind of special things, but the other part of this is food you grew up with. So just stuff you remember as a kid that maybe was unique to your family. Dining out things, if there were any sort of dining out food experiences. And then we had, it was dining out things, TV dinners and frozen things, and then homemade family food memories. And those are 3 very distinct categories. So where do you want to start?
I don't know. Let's start with, I guess, childhood stuff. What?
Okay. So when you think of family food, childhood.
Yeah. Maybe, and even that weird stuff maybe that you had in your house that
might be
your neighbor probably wouldn't
kind of
have
culturally influenced.
Yeah. How about you?
You are aware of that. Okay. So I can share, I think the 2 biggest cultural influences or things that would have been really specific to our family. My dad's side of the family was German.
Okay.
So he grew up with great aunts who remembered living in Germany.
Sure.
So there were lots of krauts,
Mm-hmm.
like sauerkraut, all that family of, there were
Cabbages that had been.
yes.
Yeah.
There were stinky meats and stinky cheeses.
Limburger and
Yes.
that type of stuff.
Things
Okay.
that were so stinky that I didn't eat them because I was very sensitive to texture and scent.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad would, though, and he loved them so much that he would literally eat them in the kitchen at one end of the house, and I would go close my door in my bedroom at
you're
the
like,
other end
no,
of
I
the
cannot
house.
eat that. Right. I
And
cannot smell that.
Yep. So, and I remember because we would travel for Thanksgiving in the United States to his family, and that is where a lot of those foods would be eaten.
Gotcha.
So it was not my favorite
Right.
meal,
Right.
because they're very pungent.
They are.
Super
They
strong, pungent flavors. But I do have that memory, and it was definitely different than anyone around us,
Sure.
like where
Sure.
we lived. And then my mother's family was Southern. We were all in Kentucky, which
Okay.
I guess some people might argue is not the South, but it is South
South
for
from
us.
us.
And the thing that I remember the most, which I have grown to love as an adult, is just like dried beans, like navy beans.
Oh,
and
yeah.
cornbread.
Okay.
I thought that
Love
was the
it,
most
huh?
disgusting thing in the whole entire universe until I got older.
Interesting.
Delish.
Now you're
with,
like, I would eat it.
ham and onions and like spices and hot pepper and a really
Okay.
good cornbread, and it is just a big pile of mush, but it smells like childhood. It tastes like love now. Even though as a kid I would
Yeah.
never have eaten it. The
Yeah.
texture horrifying. Just reminds me
Interesting.
of like home. And then from a like kind of growing up little kid perspective, my family had a huge garden when I was little. So
Okay.
up until I was like 10 or 11, we grew everything. And so my mom would make zucchini bread like crazy. We had huge zucchini.
Interesting.
So that's
Yeah.
a really specific, like learning to make zucchini bread and eating that. And I don't know, it was just like a thing that we did together.
I love that you had a big garden.
Huge.
That's cool.
And we did a bunch of canning and
We always had just, my grandmother would always grow tomatoes.
yeah.
So there was always, every summer, there was tomatoes. Even if we
Mhm.
lived in a, in a place that just had like a little patio, there would
We'd
be
have,
pots
like,
of
a-
tomatoes. Yeah. So she was always very much a big fan. And my mom loved like green tomatoes, like doing the fried green tomatoes.
Yum.
Yeah. So she would
Hell
always,
yes.
wasn't my thing, but definitely in my family.
So,
So
good.
you mentioned German.
yes.
So I should say that in Indianapolis and in the Indy area, Indiana kind of as a whole has a huge German
Yep. Lots of
population. Like
immigration here.
tons of people immigrated to Indiana from Germany. Did you ever have Brunswiger?
No. I'm sure we did. I don't remember eating it.
Okay. So
Did
that's
you?
Oh God, yes.
Tell me
So
about this.
my family on my grandmother's side, very German.
Mm-hmm.
On my grandfather's side, also my mom's side of things, very Scottish.
Okay.
So the German side, my mom does the sauerkraut type of
Mhm,
stuff, and there was definitely like you'd have cabbage,
Mm-hmm.
especially New Year kind of cabbage stuff,
Mhm.
right? So there was always that. Brunswiger is really, it's just pate. It's just a
Okay.
liver pate, basically, in a tube, and like Oscar Mayer makes some, and you can get like more
Oh, yeah.
gourmet
Okay.
stuff now. We would have it. My mom would make like Brunswiger sandwiches. It has a very unique flavor and smell to it.
Like what? Is there an association?
Yeah, I mean,
You
what's weird is I hadn't had it in years and years and years,
Mhm.
and my dog growing up he was a Chinese Shar-Pei, and so he had all kinds of like medical issues.
Okay.
So one way you can get a dog to take pills is with Brunswiger. In case you need like a little side hint here, if you ever have a
Free
dog that you're
advice
like,
for you.
if you never need a dog to take a pill, try some Brunswiger. So we would always have it in the house anyway.
Okay.
But I hadn't after growing up, it was like, didn't ever have it in my
Sure.
house. And my daughter had never had it. My husband absolutely refused to try it. So we have a dog now who is needing pills. And so we bought some. And of course, I cut off a piece and was like, okay, let's see if I remember this.
Does this taste the way I remember?
Immediate flashback. Like just, I was immediately 10 years old in my mom and grandmother's kitchen all over again. It was wild.
That's awesome.
Would I make a sandwich of it? Probably not. But
does it taste good, or is it like?
Yeah, no, it's
is
not.
The taste associated with the memory so much that there's like emotion attached to it?
There's
too?
definitely emotion attached to it. It's not bad. Like it's certainly not bad, and there's nothing like, I don't know. It sounds and looks like it'd be icky, but it's not. I mean, at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like a brown.
It's like a brown
paste, but not like Vegemite.
No, not like Vegemite.
Quite
grainy,
yeasty
and grainy.
Really
yeah, it's got a weird
flavor.
This is not. This is it's a mild flavor. There's nothing, nothing too icky.
Maybe we'll be like the cool YouTubers and we'll taste weird foods.
I've got some at home. I'm happy to bring it over. You can try some. See what you think.
We'll taste it on the podcast.
You could be like, I don't know about this.
Here you get.
You make Brussels sprouts. I will try a Brussels sprout.
Brussels sprout. I'll try some.
And you can try some Brunswiger.
I was, in my brain, I'm associating that with eating Vienna sausages, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, they're Viennese.
I don't know. Is it really? Like, they were just sort of,
they're just little bitty hot dog kind of things, right?
They used to be in my lunchbox when I was a kid. I thought they were the best things ever. They still exist. We should get a can of those. We'll taste those. And I remember bologna, or just like,
I haven't had
bologna
in a million years either.
Being a big deal.
Yeah. And then do you remember pimento loaf?
Yeah. Oh, pimento spread. Fucking love that shit.
Spread, but pimento loaf is basically like, it's meat with like little pieces of pimento in it.
Too gross.
I would eat it.
You like that?
Yeah, I would eat it. But that's childhood stuff again.
That's so wild.
The vegetarians who are listening to us right now are going like, this is the most disgusting podcast ever.
We're really sorry. This is just what it was like in the 70s and the early 80s. This was the food that we had. So there were all those, as we're talking about all those foods, I am also remembering the experience of, this is before pizza delivery. And my mom would make pizza, but it was always like with the Chef Boyardee, like pre-canned stuff, the box of crust mix. Like we wouldn't make, so she'd get that, and then there was a can of sauce, but then the toppings were always from home. So it was like hamburger, peppers, onions, tomatoes. So there really wasn't a crispy crust because we just cooked it all together. Yeah. It was more just like I don't know what it was, just like it's just an inside out kind of really pizza with the crust in it. It was not real pizza. I mean, it was, I can't even give a word to it. But well, then this was juicy.
This is pre-pizza ovens too. Like people didn't have like, their own pizza ovens or anything either. So
absolutely not.
You just threw it in the oven. Probably didn't have a pizza stone or anything in the oven.
Didn't exist.
So it just went on a cookie sheet. And
yes, it was rectangular.
Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
that was not real pizza.
How about so I'm thinking now about like food that wasn't real food, or at least culturally not real food, like. And pizza is one of those things like,
okay, tell me about
there's only certain parts of Italy that even say that they're pizza places. Right. Yeah. Like they're very specific.
But Chef Boyardee, totally Italian. Absolutely.
100%.
Along
Chef
with
spaghettios and meatballs. And,
yes.
Fun fact.
As my dad would say, Italian.
That's how my grandmother would say it.
Oh, I love it.
Italian. We're going to have Italian tonight. My husband and I did have Chef Boyardee spaghettios and meatballs the other night for dinner. We were like, what do you want? I don't know. I'm not really hungry. Neither am I. What do you want? I don't know. What do you want?
SpaghettiOs and meatballs.
I would eat SpaghettiOs. Okay. Make SpaghettiOs. No, it was fine.
Well done.
So like, do you remember the cans of La Choy chop suey?
I do.
Did you ever have those?
I don't know.
Okay.
So that tells you a lot.
You're
if
like,
I did,
block that shit out.
I do remember them. My my body is saying it's not real Chinese.
It's not real Chinese.
And so,
there's no way.
But I also don't know that I would have known the difference. I probably just thought it was disgusting because it was all touching.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, because it
Everything was
came in
all
two
together.
separate cans.
Yeah.
And then it was like you had one can, a big can, and like a little can on top of it.
Yes.
And it had like a little thing that was attaching the two, and you had to unattach that,
Mhm.
open the two cans, and then you slop all of that into one saucepan.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there were water chestnut
Oh,
in there and bean
okay.
sprouts and
Yep.
other sundry things.
Which are the components of actual
Yes. That
Chinese
actually
food.
came with regular chop suey, I think.
Yes.
And then you would buy like a can of the La Choy crunchy noodles.
Oh, yeah.
Which was
yes.
the best part of the whole meal.
Still exists.
And you put that on the bottom and then you slop the goo on top of it and eat it that way. At least that's how we did it.
I
in our
know.
house.
I agree. I
And
think you're right.
Holy shit, we ate so much of that.
Did you really?
My God. Well,
so
when your
sad.
mom works full time.
Absolutely.
What
And
the
there were
hell?
not a lot of options.
No.
For
So
quick
you just,
and easy. Like
you did what you did.
I think frozen. Well, this is a nice little transition into TV dinners.
Oh, yeah.
Microwavable food. The invention of the microwave happened while we were
Yeah.
children.
Do you remember your first one?
I actually I remember the first one because my mom and her brother actually bought it for my grandmother.
Okay.
So she had a microwave. Maybe we got ours, and she swore that she would never get one. And so they used to love to mess with her, and they would buy her things that she hated just to like bring her into the like it was kind of one of those
We're
things
dragging
where
you
she
into the 21st,
swore
20th
she would
century.
never use a microwave, never ever, and so then they bought one and she ended up loving it because she could just like heat up her tea all the
Yeah,
time.
heck
She thought
yeah.
it was she cooked everything in the microwave.
I remember when we got ours, I thought this thing is totally going to kill us. Like, and there were all the rules that came with it. Like you weren't supposed to be too close to the door and
yes,
like,
still
you
true.
know, yeah. But I mean,
Get away.
a little scary.
Yeah, and the metal.
Oh my God, the fear that you were put into you about putting metal in it.
Yep.
And we all fucking did once.
Always,
everybody.
accidentally, or like ours recently, there must have been like a little piece of aluminum that got stuck to the door
Okay.
or something, and we closed it and turned it on, and there was like poof, like a little blue
little fire
light, and I was like, okay. And then micro meals.
Oh God, the Micro Magic French fries.
Yes,
and
that's
Micro
it.
Magic cheeseburgers.
That's it.
I did love those. The buns never worked out right.
No, because they always got hard.
They got hard
They
as
had
fucking
not
rocks.
mastered like the defrost to cooking
Correct.
ratio. The bread was always very hard,
Oh
but
my
it
God,
was
I
a way
ate
to get
so
like a burger
many of those
without having to go to like McDonald's or
Yeah.
Steak and Shake.
I didn't like the fries because they never got crunchy enough.
It's
Even though
super mushy.
the box, do you remember the box had like the metal,
Yes!
not really
No,
metal,
they
but it was like
were.
a
The reflector.
reflective
Mhm.
thing in order to crisp it up. And
Right.
it totally never worked.
Same thing with those little dumb microwave pizzas,
Mhm.
so that you could get like
Yep,
although
exactly.
arguably probably crunchier than the pizza that my mom cooked in the oven. I won't say that
I'll
it tasted
take that
better.
microwave pizza, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably felt more like real pizza too.
Yeah. Those Micro Magic cheeseburgers, though, bun aside, pretty good.
Pretty. Just have a side pack of buns.
Sad day when that company went out of business. But
Those were so quintessentially like
it was
80s.
such an
Mhm.
80s thing. So weird.
It's interesting that they would have made microwave French fries when we just had fucking crispy French fries in the oven. Like
Yeah, no, but these were quick.
they were.
That's
true.
It was magic. It was micro
Micro
magic.
In fact,
I think you could do, and I do not remember this, but I remembered somebody talking about it. Like, I think there was like a Micro Magic milkshake.
oh, I believe that.
So,
Why not?
I
think that's real.
but couldn't you just let it thaw out?
No,
Like,
that's
I mean,
too
I don't know why you'd have to
slow.
microwave it.
I left some ice cream on the counter the other night and totally forgot about it. So
Oh, you're so Gen X.
there's more just like ADHD.
That's sort of a
because I was
milkshake.
like, oh, that's so hard. I want some, but I don't feel like.
Oh,
waiting
so you
for
were
it.
letting it like thaw
Yeah, I
a
was
little
letting
bit.
it thaw out, and then I came back in,
Oh, it
and
thawed
it
out,
was
all
just
right.
a giant mush pile. Okay, Micro Magic fries.
Yeah.
There's orange and yellow box. Those French fries
So
look
disappointing.
so crispy.
It's such bullshit.
And
they
they
were never crispy.
absolutely
They were never crispy.
were not. Remember this? Micro Magic frozen foods. There's the hamburger.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Milkshake. Micro Magic milkshakes. Vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. Milkshake for microwave.
So basically you could like go to, it's like a trip to Sonic, just in the
kind of
microwave.
Here you go.
Wild.
This is those kids are getting ready to be disappointed.
Oh, they're going to be really bummed out.
They are not crispy or crunchy. There you go, babe.
Wow. Check
Micro
it out.
Magic.
Golden,
That's a lie.
crispy, crunchy fucking lies.
Golden, crispy, crunchy lies. There you go.
What a bummer.
So microwave foods. But before that, we had TV dinners.
Yes. Now, were you guys a TV dinner family?
Occasionally.
Yeah.
Very occasionally, we would have TV dinners. More so when my mom was sick. Duh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even as young people, like super occasionally.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a favorite?
Salisbury steak.
Oh, God, yes.
With gravy, mashed potatoes,
Yes.
probably peas. I don't remember, or corn.
Well, remember like the one that had, it was Salisbury steak, and then it was mashed potatoes, and then in the middle was a rock hard piece of cake / brownie.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do remember
fucking
that.
good.
And it was like cool, like in the aluminum tray.
Yes.
And we had TV trays. And I think there's also I'm remembering this, sliced turkey and peas and mashed potato, kind of like the Hungry Man.
Yes.
That's the brand that I remember.
Hungry Man, I think Swanson's always had, like, I think Swanson's
That
was
makes
another
sense.
one. Yeah. That Salisbury steak for whatever. And my God,
So
the
good.
sodium in that, like, it would drop you.
Absolutely.
It was so salty and
I wonder
so
if it was
delicious.
always like that. Like
I
from the
remember
very
it being
beginning,
really salty, but
I bet it had
know,
more meat in it in the olden days.
Probably. It
And
actually
they were
probably was meat back in the day. It's still delicious. I'm just saying.
Every once in a while.
'Cause I eat like a
frozen meal.
14-year-old boy. Give me a Salisbury
That's okay.
steak. I'll
Chicken
eat it.
nuggets.
Yeah.
Chicken
Guilty.
nuggets. Hot dogs. Mac and cheese.
So mac and cheese, yes. And I don't see anything wrong with a box of Kraft
No.
macaroni and cheese.
It's good. It's just good carbs.
Yeah.
It's butter and milk.
Butter and milk
It's
and
just
powdered
a box
cheese.
of butter and
Fine.
enriched macaroni noodles.
It's fine.
It's really
They
delicious.
did change the color of it a little bit. They've kind of like,
oh, really?
I think they've dialed back the bright orange
So it's not quite
just
as
a
glowing.
little bit. Do
We
you remember
saw-
how bright it was? Like
Oh,
it was just
neon. It
yeah.
looked like the Micro Magic French fry box. Neon.
bright.
Did
bright
your
yellow.
family, did you all ever eat out anywhere? There weren't a ton of restaurants near where I lived.
Yes.
McDonald's
yes.
was probably the...
Yes. So there were a few little restaurants that we would go to. There was a place that I think I'd mentioned this to you and Tim before, but there was a place called Po Folks.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're in the Indianapolis area and you're listening to this and you're an East Sider like moi, then you probably remember Po Folks.
Mhm.
But it was a one-off. There wasn't a bunch of them. But it was kind of a Southern style, kind of like a Cracker Barrel, but like of a deeper Souther kind of, I don't know, feel. They had a tagline. It's like, we're Po, but we're proud.
Oh, yeah.
It's so
yes.
silly.
You mentioned
Anyway,
that. That's awesome.
Delicious, like super
So
good kind of food. But yeah, there wasn't like the Applebee's, and there wasn't the
No.
TGI Fridays, and there wasn't
None of those
the
places existed.
that type of thing. We had a little Mexican
Mhm.
I'm using quotation fingers, Mexican restaurant. It was not even remotely Mexican, but it's called Mi Amigos. It was over on the east side too, and we ate there
nice.
all the time. That was
Okay.
That was one. How about you?
I love that. The two things that pop to mind are the Loeffner's cafeterias, which we've talked about before.
Oh my God, yes.
Which
okay. So yes.
Indianapolis.
If we were going out, it was most likely to Loeffner's.
And it was often on a Sunday, often when my grandparents were visiting from Fort Wayne, my dad's folks. We would go there. And of course, the best part was Jell-O with whipped cream on top.
It was the pie.
Agree to
but
disagree.
Okay. Yes, I'll hear
disagree. Not lime, only cherry.
Okay.
Orange in a pinch if that was all they had.
Okay.
But lime and lemon, no way. Not at all.
Interesting.
We're not eating that. That's an abomination.
Oh, see, I love lime Jell-O.
No Jell-O rings with pineapple in it because there's bits and the texture.
Can't
it's
have
just not
bits in
right. So gross. And then the other thing that I remember, and I think this was probably before, maybe my brother was just like a wee baby. Because I don't remember him being there, which means that he was probably like
you're carrying him
immobile.
Around. Right.
There was a Mexican place near our house, almost right next to the McDonald's. I lived up in like east of the Castleton area.
Okay. Yeah.
As a young person.
Nothing. And I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
You were way kind of out.
And it was called hysterically El Gringos because indeed that's who was eating there.
This is for the gringos.
And everything was spicy to me, so I wouldn't taste anything.
Sure. Yeah.
And so my parents would get me a Happy Meal and they would go to dinner and I would eat my cheeseburger and my french fries.
I'm having a moment here because I'm thinking about the Mexican restaurant that we're forgetting.
What?
Chi-Chi's.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, my God.
That was
like
more like 80s, would have been late 80s for me.
I think it was like the mid 80s.
There was definitely one.
Chi-Chi's. And then in high school, we did for pizza, it was Noble Romans.
Yes. Noble Romans.
And you could watch them make the pizza. They would spin the dough in the big window and you could
play
watch
Pac-Man.
that. Yes.
That on the tabletop.
Pizza Hut would always have like the tabletop games too. So you'd have Pizza Hut.
Pizza buffet.
Pizza Hut you would go to if you had the book club. Remember, you could read like a certain number of books and then you get like a personal pizza for free.
Indianapolis Public Library. Summer reading program. Yeah. Shout out.
I loved, at the time when you're a kid and you're forced to go to a cafeteria, you're like, this is so.
The worst thing ever.
Torturous.
Awful.
Right. And the food was fine, and you were like, "Okay, I'll go on. I want to eat it."
So
blah,
boring.
Blah, blah. It was so boring. Smelled like old people.
Absolutely, tons of old people.
And
I
now,
was 5.
Now
everybody was
will.
Old.
Right now, I will cut a bitch to get to go to a cafeteria.
You're the cafeteria.
I love it.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yes,
thank you.
Take me to a cafeteria. Let me have some fried chicken.
Yes.
Some green beans and a slice of pie.
Absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
Food has such specific memories for people and not always good, sometimes painful or sad or difficult.
For sure.
Not everyone had access to food and resources and that kind of thing.
For a lot of people, I mean, just to be able to go out to dinner just once a month is like a really big thing.
We weren't going out to dinner-y people. We were home eating people. I should be now. Because it's so effing expensive.
It is expensive.
And yet the pace of life still dictates.
Yeah.
And my laziness, pretty much. That I still go out to dinner in the here and now. But lots of emotion, lots of memory, lots of just, this is what it was like in my day.
Back in my day.
Back in
I was
my
a baby.
day. Is there anything else?
Prehistoric ages.
Do we want to dive into?
Okay, I got one more food to ask you about. Because it was a big thing for me as a kid. Cheese Whiz.
Holy shit.
Remember Cheese Whiz?
Yeah, I do.
Were you a Cheese Whiz
We had
kid?
Cheese Whiz. We didn't. Yes, we had it definitely as I got older. Like it feels like there's this really stark dividing line between pre-1983 and post-1983 where things changed a lot because we didn't have a lot of like processed pre-packaged foods. They just weren't as accessible. Like canned vegetables probably would have been the biggest thing. American cheese, like processed cheese, that kind of thing. They just weren't as available. But there was definitely a tipping point.
Yeah.
Probably around 83, 85.
So I'll tell you a disgusting food that I would eat.
I'm here for it.
Okay. And then you have to tell me one. So you have to think about this. What's something that's just that everybody would be like, that's gross.
Okay. I got something.
Okay. So Cheese Whiz.
Uh-huh.
I would toast 2 pieces of bread, slap some Cheese Whiz on there, and then I would get sweet pickles and put that on with the Cheese Whiz.
That sounds delicious.
It was so good. So a Cheese Whiz and sweet pickle sandwich.
So what's the contemporary? It reminds me of the like pimento cheese hot chicken with pickles.
A little bit like that.
That sounds good.
Okay, so
I'd try that.
This just goes to show that I love you. Like
people,
that you would be like,
people make fun of you?
Oh my God, people would look at me in horror. Okay. Like, you're eating what?
No, that sounds delicious.
It's pretty good.
I'll go to that restaurant with you.
I need to find some Cheese Whiz.
Sweet
do they
pickle.
make that? I'm gonna have to look it up. Anyway,
absolutely they do.
They still make Cheese Whiz.
So absolutely.
I'm gonna make a Cheese Whiz and sweet pickle sandwich then.
So equivalent, not the same, but just like a sandwich that I would always eat.
Sure,
that people were grossed out by. I loved the fuck out of some tuna salad.
Okay.
And I wish I have researched this on the internet because I just want to know what it was, but it just is a product that came and went, doesn't exist anymore. At some point, pre-1983, there were these packages of like herbs and stuff that you would just mix with your tuna salad.
Okay.
With some mayonnaise. So it wasn't just the basic like pickle relish mayonnaise tuna.
So like probably had some dill or something in it maybe or something.
And my mom would get that and make tuna salad sandwiches to send with me to middle school. Oh. So I was probably, and I went to a Montessori school and I transferred, I think it was like 3rd grade. So 3rd, 4th, 5th, let's just say around that time, like 7, 8, 9, up to 10. But you know what tuna smells like.
Yeah, tuna is one of those things that if you're going to bring a sandwich on a plane, it better not be a tuna salad sandwich.
So I would get like mercilessly picked on because, of course, everybody knew when I was eating lunch because it smelled so bad. But I liked so few things.
Yeah.
So it was a slice of American cheese and mayonnaise on bread. I liked that.
Okay.
Tuna salad.
My sister used to eat mayonnaise sandwiches.
So it just tastes
no
good.
Cheese, but just mayonnaise.
Oh, so nutritious,
right? And very, very white.
White bread and white mayonnaise.
White bread and white mayonnaise.
Wow, that is pretty Caucasian. Cheese and mayonnaise, tuna salad, and then Vienna sausages out of a can.
Okay,
those were my sort of 3 lunch possibilities. Everybody knew when I ate tuna salad. And nobody liked it. I mean, other people just didn't really like it. I loved fucking tuna salad.
Will you still eat it? I mean, is that still a favorite?
Hell yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's like like comfort meals that you just sort of prepped all the time. For my daughter, at least, it was baked potato and peanut butter and jelly. Some of that was because she grew up with her great-grandmother, and that's what or baked potato and tuna salad. We will eat that all the time.
Very fun.
We don't know what else to eat.
It's like, what are you going to have?
Tuna salad and everything.
SpaghettiOs and meatballs.
And something that I loved that we probably should never have eaten are maraschino cherries.
Oh, yeah.
I still eat those.
Well, it's just a good excuse for a cocktail.
Or a milkshake.
Or a milkshake. Right. Yeah. Either way.
But just
or a boozy milkshake.
There we go.
So other things that are now defunct and gone that were big in my family. Do you remember... oh God, I can't remember the brand name, but it was turkey loaf.
Oh my goodness. No. Okay.
It starts with an S, like Sue something. It was in an aluminum loaf pan, and it was in the freezer section, and half of it split horizontally.
Okay.
Half of it was dark meat, half of it was light meat, and it was heavily, there it is, GenX. Yep.
This turkey loaf. Festive?
Yes. Yeah. So before it was Festive brand, it was a company called GenX. And it was it was just processed turkey that was dark meat and white meat. And then it had gravy, circling back to gravy. It had gravy all over it too.
Okay. So wait, this or this one?
Well,
here's the current. This still exists.
It doesn't exist anymore. I've looked.
It doesn't?
Oh no, I have looked.
You want it?
A lot. I would eat. Yes, I would buy it for sure.
Oh,
because I bet that article right there says it's a specific.
Yep, GenX turkey and gravy loaf. We would occasionally have random family dinners, and sometimes these would involve ham. I don't like smoked ham. Oh my goodness!
No, we would do turkey loaf all the time. So I'm sorry, and again, it's in the Salisbury steak world, like of that same type of salty deliciousness.
I hear it. I support your right to a good turkey loaf.
Absolutely delicious.
Yep. Jenny O, dark, white and dark gravy,
Mm-hmm.
turkey and gravy in a roasting pan.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow. Food is a wild fucking
I suspect
ride.
that there are listeners out there who are like,
Absolutely. I hope so.
I would kill somebody for a Jenny
I
loaf.
hope they're excited about it. Are there any desserts that don't exist anymore? Like,
Wow.
I know that they fundamentally changed Twinkies and Ding Dongs from the 80s
because the
now.
Hostess company kind of went out of business and then kind of came back.
Yeah. And Ding Dongs used to be pretty substantial and wrapped in aluminum foil.
Aluminum paper,
And now everything is tiny.
Yes.
And sad. Just like Twinkies.
And then there was the ultimate battle between Hostess and Zebra or Little Debbie.
Oh,
You
yeah.
always had like the Clash of the Titans there. Yeah, I'm thinking like Sara Lee used to make like a delicious cake that was in the frozen section.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it still exists.
Mm-hmm.
That was really yummy. My mom was always a good dessert maker.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
That's
Although
perfect.
I would come home from school. Oh God, here's how bad my diet was.
Mm-hmm.
I would come home from school and we would have these little boxes of Jiffy brownie mix.
Oh, hell yeah.
The little remember those little blue boxes?
Yes.
So it took
cornbread.
I think it took like a little bit of water, maybe a little bit of oil and an egg.
Mm-hmm.
And I would make that, and 9 times out of 10, that would never make it into the actual oven because we would just eat the brownie mix. It was like, I'm surprised I'm here.
Those eggs are keeping you alive. There's protein in there.
There's lots of protein in there, but probably some, questionable other things. But yeah, like
salmonella.
Right.
It's fine.
It's fine. I'm fine.
You're so fine. You're
I'm
sitting
fine.
right here. We're doing this.
Totally fine.
We survived foods of the 70s.
But that was
80s.
one of those after school things. You come home, nobody's home.
Nope.
There's a box sitting there.
Make a
It's not going to eat itself.
No. Oh, no. But you can. You can eat it.
I could make that and then get a spoon. Eat your Jiffy mix.
I think that's awesome. Do you want to do a 5 minutes of fame?
Fame.
I'm gonna live forever.
I'm gonna learn how to fly high. Okay. Sure. I will do a 5 minute of fame.
I love that.
So this is from the GenX Women Are Sick of This Shit Facebook group.
Oh, yes.
And Dana Jean sent this in.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's right. Might be DANI. DANI.
Dani.
DANI Jean.
Mm-hmm.
So Dani Jean sends this in. And her 5 minutes.
Uh-huh. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. Rewind. You can do it. I believe in you.
All right. 5 minutes of fame.
Mm-hmm.
I placed 3rd in the photo posing category in the Models Association of America International Modeling Competition in New York City in 1978 or 1979.
Hell
so my
yes.
guess is she's probably on the older side of the Gen X spectrum here.
Yes.
It was at the Waldorf. And there was a new club that was opening that weekend in Times Square. So they brought in all the contestants over for a pre-opening party with young men from the Maritime Academy one afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
We were dressed for the disco, but a few of us got bored and decided to walk back to the hotel. At the time, Times Square was still the hub of XXX movies, strip clubs, street sex workers, etc.
Mm-hmm.
After a couple of minutes, one of the women with us said, "We're being followed." So she dragged us into a joke shop where we bought 3 pairs of Groucho Marx glasses with a mustache attached. We put them on, and then we bought the entire bunch of balloons from a street vendor and proceeded back to the hotel. We had a group of Asian tourists stop to take our pictures. People were waving from buses, honking horns. It was glorious.
That's amazing.
The guys tailing us disappeared. When we got back to the hotel, we paraded around the lobby before heading for the elevator. This was during the transit workers' strike, and we had 2 rooms instead of 5. We had cots to sleep on because the hotel staff was being housed in the hotel so they could go to work.
Oh my gosh.
I love that they're Groucho glasses.
I do too.
And a big bunch of balloons. I think that's really fun.
That is a movie scene.
Yes.
That is absolutely perfect. Somebody should make a movie with that scene in it. And Ew, that you were being followed.
Yes,
Ew,
you
ew, ew.
indeed.
Ew.
I do miss the Waldorf. I was only in it one time in New York, and it's gone now, which is really sad. But it was the poshiest hotel you could imagine. It was very cool.
Was it?
Fancy.
I've never been there. I've never been to New York. New York.
You should
New
go
York
with
City.
me. We could go to the big city.
It'd be so fun. I'd like to go and see
A show. Yeah, for sure.
Just
You would
pop
love
up.
it.
That'd be a good time. That's a great 5 minutes.
Isn't that
of
fun?
fame. Well done, Groucho Marx sisters with the balloons. And ew that you had to do that.
You
and
that you were being followed.
yay, ingenuity.
Exactly. You have one?
Would you like to introduce a new segment today?
Oh, yeah. I would. Okay.
Let's do it.
So we have this 5 minutes of fame thing, and we're really excited to be able to share that. We thought sometimes there may be things that people want to talk about that are deeper than a 5 minutes of fame, where they might want some advice, some thoughts, bend an ear to somebody who might be able to offer just a little bit of advice or at least perspective on things, right? So we created the another segment, which is called Dear GenX Women or Woman. And the idea is that it's sort of our version of Dear Abby. So if people have stories or something that they just want us to weigh in on, they can absolutely submit that on the website. It's got a little section underneath the tab that says Be Heard. It's a Dear GenX Woman form that you can fill out and tell us your story, and we'll read it on the air and try to get you just a little bit of our perspective anyway on something.
Yep. A little help, a little support, a little reflection. If nothing else, just some validation. But hopefully it's useful.
Yeah. Just a little kind perspective.
So,
Lesley, you want to read our first one?
I would love to read our first one.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn here and look at the computer and read this. It is from, we're gonna say this is from Violet, because the person who sent it in did not give permission to use their name.
Okay.
Dear GenX Women, and I will probably abbreviate a little bit here and there.
Of course.
I'm at my wit's end, but I don't really want to throw my mom in a pond. Ha ha ha. That is definitely a joke. I'm 15, she's 73, making me a mid-Gen Xer, and she's an early boomer. I also have Zoomer and a Gen Alpha child that I'm still caring for.
As so many of us are.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we are sandwichies of all sandwiches.
Right.
My mom was mostly blinded by a stroke and lives alone about an hour and a half away. She's a retired school teacher. She needs someone to drive her to appointments, and for the most part, I'm happy to do it, though the drive does get long and exhausting. Heard. I totally understand that. Sometimes it's a lot, but she took good care of me growing up. The issue is politics. She loves politics, and she thinks it's fun to take the opposing view and have a debate. Doesn't matter if she agrees with you, she will just argue the other side. She thinks she's being educational, but her facts are often not correct, especially since the stroke, of course, affecting some cognitive ability. I, on the other hand, do not enjoy getting into arguments. I'd like to go down, just take her to her appointments, have lunch, let her talk about her puppy, about her best friend, all these other, she's anything else. Basically, our writer inner would like to talk about anything else. Of note, while she's arguing in the hypothetical, some of these debates are around topics that are very personal to my kids, like questioning if autism is real when one of my children's best friends is autistic. That's just one example. She never loses one of her debates in her head, unsurprisingly. So there's no actual point in having a debate. Just move along to a new topic, which is discussing the debate she got into with her little brother. So this goes on and on and on. She just loves the debate. So she will kind of hand mom off to other people sometimes who are happy and willing to engage in these things with her. I know it's not uncommon for parents and their children to have differing political views. Mine are closely aligned to what this woman taught me, and now she's talking about the opposite. I try to let it go, but like I said, she wants to debate me and make sure I'm properly educated. I can only imagine how frustrating this is for the writer. I suspect I'm not the only Gen Xer who's facing a parent with views that don't align with mine or my children's and kind of being caught in the middle. I'm probably not the only one dealing with a lonely, bored, elderly parent who wants to argue about things. How do we distract them to a different topic?
Oof. It's hard.
It is hard.
Lesley, we are recording this before the holidays.
Yes.
And I mean, a lot of us are going to be in situations where we're with folks who just feel very differently and are very passionate about the way that they feel. We're also, as we record this, 2 days away from a presidential election, which is very polarizing. Yeah, that's a lot. Mm-hmm. It's a whole lot. And, you love your mom.
Absolutely. Very clear.
She clearly loves her mom. She's clearly,
and her kids.
Yes. Clearly there, for mom, even if things are a little, off the rails
hard,
there.
And it is stressful taking care of an older parent, and particularly when their own mobility is impaired, that they really have to rely on other people, which is a super difficult position to be in as an adult. It's really hard to give up our autonomy. So empathy both ways.
And in this media world too, if mom is being fed a lot of media that maybe is not the same as what, she was listening to before.
Yep.
Over time, when you hear that, you start to kind of pick up that, and that becomes your worldview.
Yes. Because you're sort of in this echo chamber and alone a lot of the time.
Right. And so this is her opportunity to kind of vet, a little bit of what she's hearing, probably on top of
absolutely to talk about the things that she's been listening to.
Right.
And yet, how do you as a care provider and as the child of this adult, not engage? How do you make it tolerable for yourself when really the things that are probably most pressing are day-to-day experiences, medical care, food, how are you, how's your dog, let me tell you about the grandkids, all of this, it's kind of superfluous content. So how do we
redirect?
And disengage?
So this is when we turn to you, Lesley, as a psychotherapist. I guess if someone were to come in and sit on your sofa and ask you this, what little bits of advice could you give for somebody like that?
So the adviciness is almost the hardest part about all that, the advice suggestion, or just if we were just playing with this, okay, pretend mom's over there, how can we navigate this situation? It's almost the hardest thing, because the best tactic is to not engage emotionally,
and that's really hard.
Don't get upset. Don't take it personal. Respond neutrally, oh, really? Tell me more, even though you probably don't want to hear about it. But that sort of urge to stop them talking about something, to disagree or disprove. The writer wasn't saying that she was doing these things, but it's certainly an urge to say, no, mom,
absolutely,
you're wrong, and here's all the reasons. Because it's not about that, right? It's about the connection. It's sort of a similar skill that you might use if you were working with someone who was maybe leaving a cult. You would lean in, you would ask questions, you would be curious. You wouldn't really challenge directly. You would ask a lot of questions and then just notice things oh, I know you were telling me all about this, and then you also told me about this, and you maybe kind of notice how those two things don't quite go together, but you don't draw the conclusions for folks on their behalf. Now, I want to say OP, the original poster, the author of this letter, the person who's writing in, isn't really trying to convince their parent otherwise. They're more asking how do we just change the subject?
As best you can. That to me is it's not easy, but it's probably the best way, is that whole redirection. And how do you figure out oh, look, a squirrel. or
Absolutely.
whatever that is.
Totally.
Right?
And acknowledge and validate. So whatever they're saying that you disagree with, like, oh yeah, it makes sense to me that you might not know about that. Or gosh, it sounds like you have a lot of questions. You know what I was thinking about today? I read an article, it's like bring in more information. I read an article about aquariums. I don't know.
Right.
But bring in
something
another
different.
topic. It's like, it's validate, but
not engage. Right.
Validate, disengage, and redirect. I mean, that's how it's coming up for me right now.
Yeah.
None of that comes out of a book. This is just sort of
it's
like
just a
lived experience.
Yeah. Right.
Have you had any experiences like this where you've had to like,
so sometimes, there are family members sometimes just disagree on things.
Absolutely.
And when it comes down to like political, or it comes down to like just a philosophical difference about something, I have been in those situations, and I find that if I just kind of nod and like, okay, and just sort of let it go, kind of that whole,
don't give it oxygen.
Right. Just don't give it oxygen. Just duck like water off the back, right? You just sort of let it go. And that can be really frustrating, because if you're like me, I'm pretty passionate, and I'm very opinionated.
Absolutely. And if it comes to your kids, you're going to like get your back up and defend and protect them.
Absolutely. Or if you don't want your kids to hear something that you're like, I completely disagree with that. That is horseshit.
Yes.
It is very, very hard to not engage and to not argue and to fight that battle. But in the long run, like, you're probably not going to change their mind.
Absolutely not.
So you can either just sort of chalk it up and say, okay, it's all whatever, it is what it is. Or, then you separate yourself from that person. And if it's your mom, that's
hard to do.
You can't.
And it's clear, like, the writer would just like to go to lunch and like enjoy
like,
mom's company. Like, you have this
go see a movie and talk about the movie.
Time. Absolutely. So if you can redirect to other topics of interest, that is a great way to do it. But
books,
if
movies,
the topic is insistent,
like that.
if they're just sort of insistent on sharing the things back, it's like, oh, that's great. Thanks so much for letting me know. Let's redirect. It's like, did you hear about?
I mean, it's either that or you get control of the TV and you lock out certain channels. I'm just saying.
You could certainly do that too. It's tricky. It's going to continue to be tricky. And particularly like with holiday stuff, I mean, you may just have to have this open-ended, like, at any moment there's something that we're leaving for. You know what? It's been great to see you all.
Yep. Gotta roll.
We love you so much. We're going to head out. There's always an out. You're never.
Wow. That was cool.
That was like, I wonder if you're going to get to hear that on here.
We just had a car drive by at a rapid rate of speed. It was very loud. It sounded like the Indy 500 out there.
I think it's important to remember that you are an adult. You are in charge of your time. These are all other adults. You may love these adults. They're going to frustrate you, but you are not required to stay where you are. You can leave in a kind way and move on with your day.
Do you think that for this particular author, do you think that she would have that she could tell her mom, like, this is just a subject that I don't want to talk about?
I'd be super curious about how, if she's tried that before and it's not been successful, because my guess is that would kind of be like a first instinct. Or if she hasn't, kind of like, why not?
Yeah.
Did it just not occur to you? I know,
or it doesn't stick, right? Like, maybe you try it once
from
and
moment to
then,
moment. Because sometimes with parents, we will feel like younger versions of ourselves, even though we're doing very adult things, taking care of our parents as they age. We
forget that we grew up.
We're 50. We're in our 50s. We're in our 40s. We do forget. Sometimes it's very easy to kind of step right back into that kid role, like, I'm not supposed to, or I shouldn't. I totally get not wanting to debate. Like, it's just not. I just don't want to spend time debating.
No, yeah.
So I'd be curious, but that tactic of just like, it's sort of like validate and then move forward. Like,
I hear you. Hey, here's a book I
that.
just read. What do you think about this? Have you read
Yes.
it? Yeah.
And moving in a different direction. I'd be super curious to know what they've already tried. But it's tough. And it's going to continue to be something that happens, I think, through the holidays.
Oh my gosh, for sure. We hear about that all the time. I mean, just from ourselves and from friends, and you got to go hang out with the family, and it's like, oh.
But depersonalizing it. It's like, this is where they are. This is what's important to them. You don't have to engage in it. And if you have big feelings, it's totally okay to excuse yourself from the table. Or just for a moment, like go to the bathroom if you're with mom all day. I hear that you're kind of stuck in the car driving back and forth.
Right.
Focus on her health. Oh, how's the dog? I mean, redirect.
Yeah. If you're in the car and it's a long drive, find yourself a nice podcast you guys can listen together that has nothing to do with that subject.
Absolutely. Love, compassion for yourself and for them. It's a tough one.
Cool.
Thanks to Violet for writing in. And if Violet happens to listen and hears this and has feedback,
you know where to find us.
Or more information, we would be happy to read that. So hopefully this is of use to people in the future.
I hope so.
I think we've done it.
Did we finish another podcast?
I think we did.
And I'm a little hungry.
It's time. It's time for dinner.
Gotta eat something.
And we're looking forward to some exciting podcasts in December.
Yes.
Maybe a couple of episodes coming up that might have some cool things. And then figuring out what we're going to do in 2025.
If you loved this podcast, we would love you we would love you to share this with a friend. That's a great way to get the podcast out there in the world and bring other people into this orbit that we have created for GenX Women.
You have been listening to GenX Women Are Sick of This Shit. Hey, Megan.
Hey, Leslie.
What do people do if they want to find us?
Well, we have a website that people can find us on, and that is genxwomenpod.com. We also have a Facebook page. We have an Instagram account as well. We have a YouTube account where we put YouTube shorts and other little tidbits up there. We have a TikTok account.
I don't talk the tick or tick the talk.
You don't tick the talk?
I
barely talk the tick, but I did put a TikTok up.
We're explaining the internet to people again.
That's
okay, though.
It's great.
We need to know how the internet works. Can people buy merch?
They absolutely can. We have a merch store on the website itself, and we also have an Etsy store, too. So they're just pretty easy to find. It's just GenX Women on Etsy.
And if you are listening to this podcast, presumably you found it somewhere. And while you're there, give us a review.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think.
Throw some stars at us.
That'd be great. We'll take 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
Ooh, 5.
Maybe 10.
And also make sure that you are hitting subscribe so that you're notified whenever a new episode drops.
Most important.
We also have a 5 minutes of fame that I think we should tell people about, too.
Hell yes. We want to know your stories, your 5 minutes of fame stories. You can send those stories in on the website, or you can call 1-888-GenX-POD and leave your story for us, and we will play it live in our next episode. Or 2 or 3.
We'll listen to it on a little red phone, just like Batman.
That'd be cool. Let's get a bat phone.
A bat phone.
I think that's it.
I think you're right.